Well, hello and good evening, ladies of the Evolution group. Okay, so this was not how today was gonna go, but this is like classic case in point of the human experience. So we'll see how my internet is. As you come on, say hi, let me know that you're here. My name is Cara Carouse. Hi, Amy. My name is Cara Carouse, and Megan, opened up this incredible forum for others to be able to come in and share some of their gifts. You're here. Okay. All right. So I have had an afternoon. But we're still here. I'm still here with you. Hello, Catherine. Okay. So, my name is Cara Carouse. I am an intuitive embodiment coach. I'm coming to you from like the office truck, like my forerunner. I'm coming to you from here. As I said, this wasn't what I intended, but, I have had like computer problems, and I had to drop my computer off, my laptop off at the Apple store, and it was like the only time to do it was half an hour ago. But I'm here. We're here. So I'm coming in. Hello, Heather. So I'm coming in to be able to share with you more about like what the human experience looks and feels like while your soul is ascending to higher levels of consciousness. So I've been a coach in this space, in the online space, for about 3 years. As I mentioned, I'm an intuitive embodiment coach. I really love to help my clients and my community learn to feel safe in their body while they're still expanding to their fullest expression. And this includes like a lot of really deeply healing inner work in the context of love and relationships and overcoming toxic patterns, overcoming codependency, really understanding how to have healthy communication, a healthy conscious relationship. And then it's also in terms of like entrepreneurship and honoring your soul assignment and really leading from your heart and growing a personal brand of business. So I first started out my own journey being a birth worker, and that came out of experiences that I had. I have 2 boys. They're 14 and 17 now, and my first birth experience wasn't very nice. And you guys that are on watching live, and of course those who do tune in for replay, have you had babies? Like, how was your birth experience? What was that like for you? Because for me, my first birth wasn't such a positive experience. And so I was determined with the birth of my second son to have a positive, like, empowering birth. And I did it. I did it. I vowed, like, I'm just going to see how far I can get without any meds or anything. I'm just going to see. And I ended up birthing him naturally. And he was 10 pounds, no meds. So I was like, oh my God, like I've got to share this with other moms. And a huge part of that, my success in doing so, was really moving from a place in my nervous system where I felt calm and I felt confident. And that was through the help of hypnobirthing. If you've heard of hypnobirthing, it's hypnosis for birth. And so I did it with my first son, who's 14 and a half now. And then I started teaching it. I got certified and I started teaching it. And a huge part of that was understanding nervous system regulation, how it pertains to the birth experience. Heather, oh my gosh, yeah, mine was a very bad experience. I almost died and my daughter almost died. Yes. And I'm so sorry to hear that that was your experience. And yes, that sounds extreme, but like birth in our culture it's not good. So that was like my first, that opened my eyes to what I knew that I wanted, what I knew I came here to do. My calling, my first calling, my soul assignment was being a birth professional. And so I worked as a birth doula, and I accompanied women to their birth experiences and helped the dads, be able to support the moms as best as they could. I taught prenatal yoga. Hello, Megan. Oh my God, Megan, I messaged you. Wait till you listen to my message from earlier, because I'm hanging out in the mall parking lot right now. I had to drop my laptop off, and I was a little crunched, but I made it at 6, so I'm happy about that. So birth experiences. So that was like, I knew that was part of my path, was to be able to help others, help women, and have this empowering birth experience. Oh, okay, good. You listened. Okay, I'm here. I'm showing up. I'm going to keep showing up. So then it sort of like evolved into, so mine wasn't too fun either, right? Like this is the culture of birth in our country. Had an emergency C-section and felt the whole thing. Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. Still working through that trauma, right? Like we carry that with us. So for me, answering that call to help women have more empowering birth experiences, it's very meaningful to me, and I still do it. I still do it now. That I started it over a decade ago, and I still do it because they're like, we need this. Like, we need to not be having experiences like that. And such a huge part of not having experiences like that is understanding the role of fear and understanding what happens in the nervous system when we are afraid. And, in the context of birth, like, yes, what happens I'm also a registered nurse. So like physiologically, what goes on in the body, the blood gets shunted away from the uterus. Like, it's a whole thing. It's a whole thing. So interesting. So many of us, yes, share this experience. I know, 'cause me too. I know. And like, birth sets us up for our motherhood. And then we enter motherhood and we're like dragging. And then of course, like those of us who are more aware of our own ascension, we often do have a history of trauma. And for me, particularly sexual abuse in my childhood and rape in my teens. And so it's like, when we have these experiences like that, it awakens this other part of ourselves. And then we go through the birth experience, then we're re-traumatized through the birth experience, and then we're moms. And then like, no wonder why we can feel disconnected at times. And it's a whole thing. So I still do my birth work, and I'm very thankful for that. And like, there really is a need, to help guide empowering birth experiences through that. So I haven't quite been able to quit that because it is so meaningful to me. But now I coach more on life, love, business, and rebirth, and what it looks like what rebirth really looks like, and how we come to this place where we're like, oh my God, I know I'm meant for more. I know that I'm here. I know that I'm here to honor my unique gifts and everything that I've been through, and all my trainings and all my certifications and everything that I know. Like, I know I'm here to serve in some capacity. I know I'm here to raise the collective, to raise the vibration, like in some capacity. And so you ball up your unique gifts. Yes, to rebirth. You ball up and we have so many of them, right? Like, I'm definitely going to talk about that, Megan. So ball up our unique gifts, our training, our educations, our certifications, all of our challenges and our painful experiences that we've been through. And we go, okay, this is everything that is unique to me. These are my gifts. And this is what I have in exchange for that. This is how I'm going to make your life better in exchange for that. And we all have the ability to honor this call. We all have the ability to really tap into what your passions are and what your purpose is, and to continue to rise and ascend to higher levels of consciousness. This is through our growth, our evolution, our expansion, our ascension. This is like what we came here to do, right? And you guys are here. You're in Megan's group. You're the evolvers. Is that what you called your group, Megan? Yeah, the evolvers. So you guys are the evolvers. You know this is what we came here to do. And sometimes we get so obsessed with ascending and rising to higher levels of consciousness and being the best version of ourselves and going out the moonroof that we forget to ground. And we forget what it's like to be in this body, this human having this human experience. And I truly, truly believe that the soul is in this physical body to be able to get the lessons to ascend to higher levels of consciousness. And I truly, truly believe that everything is energy, that every single emotion we have has a corresponding energetic frequency. And based on, where we are with our thoughts and our internal dialogue and the narratives that run our lives and the scripts that we subscribe to, and what's written on our heart, that gets broadcast out to the world. And then of course, more of that comes back in. And that's just, it's like we're in this constant co-creative process with the universe. Yeah, fully admit I forgot often, but it's so good when we come back to it. I know, right? Like we get so caught up in like just this beautiful expansion, and I love that. Like I love talking about the soul's ascension. I love talking about, our growth and continuing to expand to our fullest expression, to the biggest version of ourselves, aligned with our highest potential. But then we also really have to come back into the body. So my background is also, I have a degree in psychology from like 20 years ago. I knew when I first got that degree that I wanted to help survivors heal from abuse. I just wasn't sure like what it was going to really look like. Now I know, it's all clear to me, but 20 years ago, like how are we expected to know what we want to do when we're like 18, 20 years old? Like what we want to do with our career for the rest of our lives. Like it really blows my mind. But at any rate, I have a degree in psychology. I'm also a certified yoga instructor. I'm an energy healer. I practice Reiki and I do EFT, and I am an NLP practitioner, and I'm also a registered nurse. So I was able to combine like all my gifts, and I'm a single mom, and I've had really, really incredible life experiences, some not so good, some really, really good. But like, I understand that I'm here on a bigger mission, that it's not just like what's happening in this human body. And at the same time, I'm a huge proponent of somatic experiencing, soma, cell, body, and like somatic therapy. Thank you. Yes. Thank you. Love all my gifts. Yes. It's like, and we can all, bundle up our unique gifts too. I truly, truly believe that. We're also different. We've all been, so blessed and so fortunate. It's just a matter of like, are we tapped in? Are we turned on to that? So understanding like the physical body and our role, like its role in keeping us grounded and keeping us sane and keeping the nervous system regulated. So I know, Megan, you've got this whole module, it's like a 2-month period that you're doing all about the nervous system. I was like trying to dig a little bit and look into like, the entirety of this 12-month mastermind. So it looks like this has been 2 months for you all learning about the nervous system. And I'm going to give my take on it. And in addition to understanding what the nervous system is doing, like I know that that's the module, that's the topic right now, but I do also believe that as part of the human experience, that we also understand our attachment styles. And that we also understand that as women, we're cyclical beings and we cycle. Like we definitely cycle every month, every week, sometimes every day, sometimes every hour we cycle. And so there's like this element of like self-love and self-acceptance and self-compassion that we get to have, that we really get to have for ourselves as we're still ascending to our highest potential. Yes. Okay. My magic is the codes, and helping with that type of regulation through energetics. Yes. But you guest speakers are so helpful. Yeah. Because I told my loving students, okay, that this was not my area of expertise. Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, and I love that we can all come together, and it's just like the goal. Yeah. Not. I know. I get it. I gotcha. The goal is that we're all learning together, and that we're all rising together, and really stepping into, each individual's personal power as optimally as possible. So, understanding the nervous system, understanding attachment styles, which I'm going to touch on, and understanding cycle syncing, which I'm not going to get too into, but I do really believe that, you know, if anything, this can just like plant the seed around the importance of really knowing when you get your period, when you're ovulating, when you're having, you know, PMS, when you're in your luteal phase, when you're just really needing to turn inward. So I do really, that's like super duper important, but that's a whole nother conversation. So the nervous system. All right. The nervous system is one of 11 systems of the body. And, you know, cause I'm also a nurse. So I don't practice now. I do my coaching full time, part-time to full-time. But like my background is as a nurse. I worked in pediatric palliative care for years, and I was also an RN home birth assistant for years. So like my RN hat, when that's on, and any other time, like I nerd out over physiology. And especially as it pertains to birth, like I nerd out over it. So our nervous system, you know, we have our skin, our integumentary system, we have our muscular system, we have our cardiovascular system, our skeletal system, we have our digestive system, our lymphatic system, our immune system, our respiratory system, our urinary system. You get the point. Our endocrine system, like you get the point. We have these systems of the body, and they all work together. Like, we're just like a machine. When we think of when I think of the human body, I'm like, holy shit. Like, the human body is amazing. Like, think about the human body. And it's all just happening without us even knowing it. Right? Like, we go like, oh my God, did you hear what so-and-so said? And we get so caught up in like the drama of things. But like, really? Our bodies are just doing everything for us without us even realizing it. So I'm a huge proponent. It really is so fascinating. Yes. I'm a huge proponent too of like understanding the cues of our body, particularly the cues of your nervous system. So our nervous system is like, the command center. It's like, you know, I picture like, it's funny. I picture like the Star Trek Enterprise, and like someone sitting, and then there's like this dashboard of like, you know, all these like buttons and like levers, and it's the command center. So the nervous system is our command center. The nervous system is also like one of the main goals of the nervous system is to be able to keep us safe. It's for our survival. So there are 3 functions that it does. The nervous system is always, this happens very, very fast. It's always gathering information from our environment, whether we realize it or not. It's processing that information like rapidly. The neurotransmitters in our brain are like, they fire so rapidly. And then it delivers very quick impulses out to our body to be able to act fast. Like, think about when you touch something that's hot, like fast, like it's happening very, very fast. And the majority of it, of like, you know, the sensory input happens without our conscious awareness. It's like, you know, these other systems of the body that are just like doing their thing. It's without our conscious awareness. And so the nervous system, it's keeping us safe. And so as it's keeping us safe, it's also scanning the environment for threats. So there are all these different components of the nervous system, but this one in particular is called neuroception. And I think of it like, I have a German Shepherd. I think of it like my dog. Like, he's usually hanging out in the back with me, but he couldn't come. I had to go in the mall. So it's like our nervous system is like my German Shepherd, where he's constantly scanning. He can't turn it off. I mean, when he's sleeping, he kind of turns it off. But even when he's sleeping, he'll wake up out of his sound sleep and be barking at something. Because he's built for protection. He's built to protect me and my boys and, you know, everyone that he loves. So this neuroception, it's like scanning and it's looking for threats, and then it goes danger, 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 and then it fires off. And when it fires off, that's when we feel activated or when we feel triggered. So are you aware of what some of your triggers are in life? Like, you know, that something that's like, I mean, it's gotten to be like more like of a hot topic to go like, oh my God, that was I was so triggered, you know, and like, that's a good thing because we're increasing, and I'm not really a fan of the term like mental health, but like we're increasing awareness around these sorts of things. So are you aware of what your triggers are, or things that like set you off, or things that activate your nervous system? Because that's always really, really important to like move from that awareness. Okay, Catherine, yes. Okay. It's wild because I'm becoming more aware, and it's little things. I know, like too much noise in the AC, like the AC in the summer. I know, especially for a highly sensitive person. And I gather that, you know, you, especially Megan, and then like the ladies in here too, you're here and you've been drawn to Megan for a reason. So it's like this energy, this frequency of being an empath, of being a highly sensitive person, of being like, I don't want to say prickly, but just like very, very aware. And so then it's like, okay, how can we find our way around that? How can we learn to hold that and still be calm, still know that you're safe in your body? So I'm a huge fan of the polyvagal theory. Have you guys heard of the polyvagal theory? Or like, have any of the other people who you've had in here, Megan, like, has anyone else talked about the polyvagal theory? So poly means many, vagal is the vagus nerve. And this is really, really, okay, no, not yet. Okay, so okay, you have not, Amy. Okay, so the polyvagal theory is like, I nerd out over this. This is something that's really, really important. Now, traditionally, like, it's a relatively new theory from like the 90s. It was born out of Stephen Porges, who, okay, you did talk about the vagus nerve, but not that. Okay. So I'm going to elaborate on like the vagus nerve a little bit more too. So, Stephen Porges is a neonatologist, and in like the early 90s, I think like in 91, he got really curious about how our birth experience, like us being born, not like us giving birth, but like us being born, how our birth experience has this imprint on our limbic system and then carries into our life. Like what's the resonance of our birth experience? Like, I was born via cesarean. So like, what was the resonance of me being born via cesarean on my life? So he started looking into that. And then he discovered in his own learning that, this vagus nerve really comes into play, and it has a lot to do with when we do feel unsafe and when we do feel activated in our nervous system. And now his work has been translated into like therapy. Like it's moved into more of a therapeutic environment. If you guys want books or resources on this, just like post afterwards, and I'll post a picture of like all my nerdy nervous system books. But so the polyvagal theory is a theory that is there. If you can imagine a ladder. Hold on, because I brought my book, because I'm like a visual person. I'm like a graphics person. So I always like create different graphics. But so side note, this is my first book. I'm writing my second book, but this is my first book. Keep Showing Up. It's available on Amazon. I published it 2 years ago. I self-published. It's a memoir and powerful guidebook for empaths to embody self-love, self-empowerment, and self-worth. The first part is a memoir, and the second part is like, it's a pretty deep shit. It's like a lot of stuff that thanks Megan. It's a lot of stuff that it's everything that I used to put myself back together after like my dark night of the soul. But then it was also a lot of the same like patterns, things that I was seeing and working with my clients on. So I definitely wanted to have like a resource available. And then the third part is just sort of bringing it all together. So, there is a ladder that's the autonomic nervous system ladder. So in our nervous system, we have, this is total like, high school science review, but we have our, central nervous system. Okay, there it is. We have our central nervous system, and that's our brain and our spinal column. And then we have our peripheral nervous system, and that's everything that's outside of the brain and the spinal column. And all the nerves that innervate every single organ, every single muscle. Our nerves wrap around everything. Like everything is, our body's a freaking machine. Everything is so interconnected. So within the peripheral nervous system, that gets subdivided, somatic and then autonomic. And so then the autonomic nervous system is what we're talking about. And traditionally, before the polyvagal theory came along, traditionally, it was simply broken up into sympathetic and parasympathetic. So the sympathetic, I know you've heard of this. This is fight or flight. And then the parasympathetic is like the rest and renew. And traditionally, before the polyvagal theory came along, it was like, they don't oppose one another. The sympathetic is like, we're getting ready to fight. And the parasympathetic is the rest and renew, is what brings us down from that heightened state of like hyper arousal. And they don't oppose, they're not against one another. They're like a teeter-totter. So they work together. They complement each other. And what Stephen Porges did, and those who have continued to, allow this theory to evolve, they go, okay, well, so we're no longer on like a teeter-totter, we're on a ladder. And so the autonomic nervous system ladder is how they explain the polyvagal theory. And like they will also say, like, if people are afraid of heights and you don't want to think about a ladder, like that feels threatening and activating to the nervous system, you can go like envision the ladder is on a horizontal, like is a horizontal as opposed to vertical. But I have it depicted here in a ladder, okay? So envision this ladder. It's the autonomic nervous system ladder. And so at the top of the ladder, we have our ventral vagal activation. And side note, I have a regulation cheat sheet, a nervous system regulation cheat sheet. It's 8 pages. If you want that, it's a really, really great resource. And I have like this visual and a great explanation and like a lot of different tools to help with regulation, which I'm going to explain more about. But that's like a quick download. So just let me know if you want the link for that too. And Megan, let me know if you want the link for that. So at the top of this ladder here is what's called the ventral vagal state. So it's like the top part, ventral. Yeah. Okay. So the ventral vagal state is like when things are cool, like we're cool, we're hanging out, we're safe, we're social, we're creative, we're optimistic. So we think about the emotional scales. I know at some point, Megan, I watched one of your videos too, and you'd reference the emotional scales. So I reference the emotional scales. I actually have them in here, a lot because everything is energy. So when we're higher up in our frequency, then, like I have a nice little graphic in here too, that's all about like, the emotional scales. So we're hanging out higher in frequency. Yeah. Okay. All right. Cool, guys. For sure. I'll get you the link. We're optimistic, like I was saying, we're creative. We've got to feel safe to be creative. If we're in survival mode and we're feeling very threatened, our creativity is gone. Like it's lock it up and throw away the key. And that especially pertains to our chakra system and our sacral chakra. And if there's any womb healing that we could really benefit from, like it's all connected. But the ventral vagal state that's like home base. To me, that's home base. That's where we want to get back up at the top of the ladder. Like we want to get back up to the top of the ladder. So I have feeling at ease, free to really be yourself, open to new possibilities. When you're in your ventral vagal state, you feel calm, you feel peaceful. You feel present, grounded, curious, mindful. Like we're able to really feel like what our senses are perceiving because we're here now. So the ventral vagal is like where it's at. Like, sign me up for the ventral vagal state. Okay, so then neuroception's hanging out, the German Shepherd in our system, and neuroception detects a threat, whether it's real or perceived. Perceived, aka imagined. So yes, the bliss and peace state. Yes. So it detects a threat, and then we automatically go to our sympathetic activation, which is very mobilized. It's fight, it's flight. We're gonna get the fuck out. And Megan, excuse me, but like I hope you guys are okay with swearing. We're gonna flee, we're running, or we fawn. So fawn is like a relatively new maladaptive adaptive response. Because remember, it's this nervous system, this incredible command center that we have in our body, it's built for our survival. And so it's like, how can I best help this civilized human being who's living, you know, in a world that's has all this infrastructure and everything? How can I continue to help this human being evolve? Oh, I'm going to give him fawn. I'm going to give him fawn and fawn. So fight is, okay. Yeah, fawn is new to me. Okay. But made so much sense when you first heard it. Okay. So you've heard fawn before, but yes. And I was in the trap of fawning. Like, so I wrote my book because I was coming out of a really difficult relationship. I was with my twin flame. I was trauma bonded. I was addicted to the dysfunction. It was a really, really awful time in my life. But when I finally broke away, I wrote my book as a reflection and also to be able to help improve, you know, the lives of others and those who I coach and all of that. So fawn was something that I did. Fawn often gets tied in with, people pleasing and with like a chronic abandonment of self, a betrayal of self. A lot of times people who fawn don't know what their needs are. We get so caught up in the needs of someone else, and it's like all up in their business, but it's like, no, that reel it back in and focus on yourself. So yeah, fight, we're going to fight someone, or maybe it's just verbally aggressive with someone. Flee, we're getting out, we're running away. Or fawn, we just want to smooth things over. You just want to smooth things over and just make it better. And there's been no resolution, and it's very likely going to happen again, whatever it is. But like, we just want to feel calm, just want to go back to the ventral vagal state in the nervous system and not be so activated all the time. So I'm just going to agree to whatever we need to agree to for right now, just to keep the peace. So being in the sympathetic state, this middle part on the ladder, is very mobilizing. And when I lived in this place before I really opened my eyes to this theory and started really like integrating and embodying my knowledge of it now. But I lived in this state. So it's very mobilizing. It fueled my workouts. I was in the best shape of my life. It fueled my workouts. I had to discharge the energy somehow. But I was anxious all the time. I was panicked. It was not fun. It was not a fun place to be. So when we're in this sympathetic activation, the fight, flight, or fawn responses, we're feeling very fearful. So low vibe, we're very low vibration, low frequency in this state. Anxious, worried, there's rage. And the rage, side note, is like a component of grief. Like I'm a huge fan of talking about grief also, and really normalizing grief and the grieving process, because we're grieving all the time. We're grieving relationships that have ended. We're grieving former versions of ourselves. We're grieving loved ones who have passed. Like whatever shape the grief takes, yes. But in terms of the nervous system, the rage, the anger that is felt being in this state, that's where it's coming from. And I know, for many of you who are new to me, I wouldn't say I have ADHD, but I have a lot of like sidebars, and then I come back. So thank you for like following me where I go with this. And if you have any questions, please put them in the comments, because I will make everything clear as day for you. Just let me know, whatever the questions are. Okay. So sympathetic activation, there's irritation, there's frustration, there's racing or obsessive thoughts, feeling on edge or wanting to escape, or feeling an intense need to want to smooth things over, even though there's no resolution. So, yeah, let me see, Megan. Oh yeah, my anger often comes up and tells me it's unfulfilled. Yes. It can be similar to grief, like lost life, lost goals, lost dreams. Yes. And I really do believe like grieving could really be tied into the human experience too, as such an integral part, because we're always like, we're capable of holding all the emotions. We're capable of holding everything that we're striving for, all the goals, all the visions, all the intentions that we set for ourselves in this life. And then we're also capable at the same time of holding everything that didn't quite go our way. And that, the disappointment that we may feel, or, just this added component to whether like the sadness, the anger, the depression, right? Okay. You know what I'm saying? Okay. Okay. So now when we're in the sympathetic activation here, the task, like the homework, the mission, should you choose to accept it, to get the fuck out of the sympathetic state, is to self-regulate. So I don't know if it's just my world because I'm totally nerdy about this stuff, or if it's like it really is becoming more mainstream, but the term like nervous system regulation and regulation, to me, seems like there have been more conversations around it. So have you guys heard about like self-regulation? There's self-regulation and there's co-regulation. And when we're born, when we're first born, we don't know how to self-regulate. So we think about little babies, our little babies, and they're crying and they can't calm themselves down. I mean, some babies will suck their thumb, just like to soothe themselves, but we don't know how to self-regulate. So as babies and as young children, we've got to have ideally our primary caregiver who is regulated in themselves first and teaches us through co-regulation how to calm down. Yeah, we can do it efficiently. Yeah, is that the question? Yeah, self-regulation. I know. Can we do it efficiently, right? So this is where my regulation cheat sheet comes in, because I've got this whole list to be able to refer to, and then it's like you just try them on for size. You just try it on. If it's not a good fit, it's not a good fit, and you don't do it anymore. But it's like, at least I'm a huge fan of like having a bag of tricks. Like I used to have this purse. It was like a hobo bag. Like, remember when hobo bags were the thing? Like now I've got my fanny pack that I wear as like my side bag. But when I had this huge hobo bag, it was like from Express or something, and I would open it up, and I'm telling you, it was like, I don't know, it was like a clown bag. It was when I was, my boys were younger. So like I always had this, I think I even used it in place of a diaper bag sometimes, because I got sick of like the diaper bag. So I had like this hobo bag. It had braided straps, leather braided straps. I would open it up, and it was like enormous in there. And it was like, oh, what do I got in my bag of tricks to be able to like pull out? Let me hold on, let me pull this out. And so it's like, that's regulation. It's like, what's in the bag of tricks? What's in the hobo bag, the clown bag? What are we going to pull out to be able to help soothe ourselves in this moment, in this dynamic, in this situation? Because the human experience, everything is so dynamic, and we are so dynamic. So with the sympathetic activation, the task is self-regulation. I love nature. And, especially for the women in here and you guys, like being at a place where you are more of an empath, more highly sensitive, nature is a must every single day. So nature, grounding as often as possible. I'm a huge fan and proponent of like the energetic currency, the frequency of being able to earth, of being able to walk barefoot, of being able to lay on the earth. I just had this like tuning fork therapy. I had 3 sessions of that over the last month. So like, so getting in nature, getting to a place where it feels really calm to you. Hydration is a way to self-soothe, because a lot of times, like if we're dehydrated or not, our cells aren't plumped up enough, we're going to feel funny too. Yeah, you said it. Yes, I do EFT. Yeah, and just getting started back into that, yes, is one of your tools. Totally. Be able to tap. Oh my gosh, that works like a charm for self-regulation to help bring our nervous system back down. For me, I think about appealing to the 5 senses, 6, but you know, our 5 senses. I think about, what do I want to be seeing that is visually soothing to me? Is it like the sunset? Is it looking up at the sky? Is it watching the clouds? Is it looking at the grass? Is it watching the breeze blow in the trees? Is it my dogs? Like, what do we want to be seeing? What do you want to be hearing? In my home, I have surround sound, and I will typically always be playing like this Zen station from Pandora. So it's like this, you know, it's all different frequencies that are playing all the time. It's that, or like Beyonce radio, or Taylor Swift, or like Counting Crows, or something like that. But, or rap, like it's one of those things, but typically it's like something that's really chill. What do we want to be smelling? I always have essential oils diffusing in my home. They clean the air, they shift the ambiance. I've been doing that for over 20 years. It's just been a part of my life. What do we want to be tasting? What do we want to be feeling? Like, I'm just such a sucker for like soft blankets. So think about, it's so funny that I'm in my truck, you guys. Like, I'm a steering wheel. But yeah, be thinking of how you can appeal to your senses. Yeah, I've been releasing a lot of these past few days. Yes, the full moon is today. Happy full moon. I just went and bought some more plants in the garden. Yes, and planted about 15. Amazing. Get your fingers in the dirt. Yes. I feel so much more grounded. Yes, and you were productive. Your front yard looks great, I'm sure. And so that to you is a form of self-regulation. And so thinking about that the next time, you know, there's a rupture with your significant other, or your kids are, you know, being loud and crazy and wild. It's summertime, you know, they're just being themselves. And so it's like, how can I calm? How can I get back to my center? How can I regulate? How can I get my shit together is what I think about this, my shit. And that is an acronym. And that's one of, you know, something that's very powerful for you, Catherine. So this concept of getting your shit together when we're in the sympathetic activation and needing to self-regulate, the acronym shit. Let's see, wait, you did, oh, really? Interesting, Heather. I did EFT for a while, but noticed my seizure frequency increased, so I stopped. Interesting, it kind of scared you. So, yeah, it's like seizures can be so tricky too, because sometimes there's something that like stimulates or causes them. Sometimes it's really not. Do you take them, if you don't mind me asking, do you take a medication to help keep them at bay? And I wonder if it had something to do with your energetic frequency shifting, causing more of them. So the acronym SHIT. This is what you're remembering for yourself. Self-love. So what kinds of activities help demonstrate self-love for you? Okay, you do take meds. Okay. Wow, and it was overriding the meds. Damn. Catherine, I do EFT mostly in the morning before I start with my clients, or in bed if I'm having trouble sleeping. Yeah, I've done it when I've been having trouble sleeping, and right away I feel a sigh come into my body, and I feel my body like downshift, like I feel it. And so EFT, it's based on the meridians, it's based on, you know, the nadis, these channels of energy that we have, but the meridians that traditional Chinese medicine is based on. And for me, it's part of my self-care. I get acupuncture weekly, because to me, it's really, really important to me to keep my subtle body balanced and to increase my capacity to, hold energy for the clients that I work with and for myself as I continue to expand. So the S is the S of shit in get your shit together when you're self-regulating is self-love. So what kind of activities can you do that demonstrate self-love? And I'm talking, wash your face, put lotion on your body, buy yourself flowers, smell the flowers. Yeah, I love acupuncture. Me too. Love it. And my acupuncturist is like a shaman. She's like so intuitive, and I come in and she's like, oh gosh, you're like way off this week. Or like, oh, you feel great this week. And I'm like, I know, I feel great. So thinking about what self-love means to you, what kind of activities you can do that demonstrate self-love. The H is happiness. So what causes you to feel happy? People go like, I just want to be happy in life. And so it's like, okay, well, what activities do you do that stimulate this feeling of happiness in you? What can you do that brings you joy? And so it's like, okay, access that list. My happiness is petting my dog, walking him, getting out in nature with them, going to the waterfalls, like, laying in the sun, is summertime, is the fresh air, is my boys and hugs from them, and eating healthy and cooking and sometimes baking if I have a little sweet tooth. I think of things that bring me happy. So the H is happiness. So think for yourself, what brings you happiness? The I is inner peace. So as far as self-regulation goes, and this list of regulation, practices you can have in your bag of tricks, your big clown hobo bag, what brings you inner peace? I'm a yoga practitioner, a yoga instructor. I've been practicing yoga for over half my life. It came into my life in 1999. I love yoga. So yoga brings me inner peace. I love meditation, but like yoga and meditation, it's like math and arithmetic. It's like same diff. So getting by water, getting by nature, or getting by waterfalls for me, writing in my journal, like think about what brings up this feeling of inner peace for you. You're making your own list. And then T is time. Like, how are you spending your time? Time is one of the most precious commodities in life. We think money is. It's time. It's time, and it's your energy, and it's how you're investing your time, and it's how you're investing your energy. You're here with me now, and I'm so thankful for that. This is you investing your time and your energy and being here right now. Our investments aren't just what we're spending financially. It's how we're spending our time. It's how we're, spending our energy. It's who we're sharing our energy with. That's such a huge piece to, the human experience and nervous system regulation. So any questions about the acronym or like what you could be doing to, think about self-love, happiness, inner peace, and time? And then I'm going to move on because there's one more other part of the nervous system that's really, really important to touch on. I'll see if any comments come through. There's like a 20-second delay, I think. Okay, so the nervous system, we want to be in the ventral vagal state, the top of the ladder, where we're like safe and social and we're dancing and everything is cool. It's party time. And we feel at peace and we feel calm. A threat comes, neuroception detects a threat, real or imagined. It goes to the sympathetic activation, fight, flight, or fawn. Now, if it continues to detect a threat that is just beyond what it thinks it can handle, it goes to the dorsal vagal, to the bottom of the ladder. The dorsal vagal activation. And this is immobilization. This is shutdown. This is like, I can't adult anymore. Or like when people go like, I just can't. It's like your capacity for it has completely run out for it, whatever it is, the threat that's, it's a threat to your safety in some way. So the dorsal vagal, it's like when a possum plays possum. And humans do that too when they completely shut down. And it's like, this is depression. This is like Eeyore. You couldn't comment anymore. Okay. Will Def have a shit? Yes, a shit journaling exercises in here, totally. So weird. I wonder if it's, I don't know. I wonder if it's because I'm in a parking lot. That might have something to do with it. I don't know. But I'm really glad that I've continued to have, like, connection this whole time. So, okay, we're in the dorsal vagal. This is freeze. This is collapse. This is, like I was saying, Eeyore. This is numb. This is checked out, disassociated with anything that's happening. This is, you know, when you're like, okay, someone says something completely outrageous to you and you're like, ugh. And then, you know, you leave the situation and you're like, oh, fuck, like you're thinking about it, you're replaying it and you're like, oh my God, I should have said da-da-da. Why didn't I think to say da-da-da? Well, in the moment, you're so caught off guard and your nervous system is so activated by whatever the threatening comment was, you weren't safe. Our ability to process information gets shut off, particularly in the dorsal vagal activation. So you feel helpless, spaced out, trapped. There's often intense shame that's associated with being in that dorsal vagal state. And so when we're that far down in its hypo arousal, the sympathetic activation is hyper arousal. Yes, it definitely sounds like burnout too, for sure. We got nothing left to give. There's no creativity coming from this place because it's not safe, first of all, but also it's like, I'm just done. Like, stick a fork in me, I am done. That's the dorsal vagal activation. And so the task when we're in the dorsal vagal activation as a human is to co-regulate, is to get with someone else who we trust, who we feel very, very safe with, a friend, a loved one, a coach, a mentor, like whoever this looks like, whoever this is, whoever has their shit together and is regulated, because then we have this part of ourselves. We have these mirror neurons. The neurons are the cells of the nervous system. And we begin to mirror their regulation. They got their shit together. They're calm. They're grounded. They're here to hold space and listen. They're in their healthy, empowered masculine energy. If you've gotten into the sacred energies in the masculine and the feminine, they're good. And so you're freaking out or you're shut down and you're like, oh, I just like can't adult anymore. I'm burnt out. Like, oh, I can't do life anymore. Start walking, mobilize, walk. Even if your walk is slow, that's fine. Get with the person who's got it together. And then it's like energy is contagious, but we've also got these mirror neurons. So then we start to go, okay, all right. I am going to be okay. Like we are going to get through this. And then you start to mobilize. So we go from being immobilized, then we start to mobilize. And we start to walk a little bit, or maybe we breathe together, or maybe we hold hands together, or maybe we just sit and be together. And then you start to move back up the ladder. So when we are in a depressed state, and then you think you're getting better, you're coming out of the depression, but then there's a ton of anxiety, like, what? I thought I was getting better. That is progress, because you're moving back up the ladder. So the depression, you start to regulate, you start to get it together, and then you start to move up the ladder and you get a little bit anxious, and then you're still activated. Keep going, keep moving that energy until you get back to the ventral vagal where it feels safe. Is this one of the reasons why hugs are so pivotal? Yes. And changing us out of the dorsal system. Absolutely. Yep. Hugs. And we breathe together. And so then you're like checking in with what your breath is doing, whether you realize it or not, and you're feeling their heartbeat and you're feeling them breathe, and their energy is being transferred to you. Absolutely. It's co-regulation. Yep. And then there's also like an added physiological component where oxytocin is released in our bodies, and that is the love hormone, and that works to bring us up back to the ventral vagal state also. And oxytocin is a huge hormone in birth too. So like this is all tied together. Now, this just very, very briefly mentioning attachment styles, because attachment theory is a psychological and evolutionary perspective or theory that comes from how we first attached or connected with our earliest caregivers, how we were in dynamic with them, who we had to be in dynamic with them to get their love, that then shows up in our adult relationships. And a lot of times, until that's healed and fully integrated, we will continue to show up in our adult relationships like we did in our childhood relationships with our earliest primary caregiver. So there are insecure attachment styles, and there's secure. And the goal is secure. So just like in the nervous system, the goal is the ventral vagal state. The goal in attachment styles and connection with others is secure. You can count on them. Closeness doesn't bother them. Like, that's the goal with attachment styles. And so this is total, like, just skimming the surface of attachment styles. But because it is part of the human experience, this does all tie in with how the nervous system becomes activated at different times and how we show up in all other areas of our lives too. So the attachment styles, the insecure attachment styles we have, there's an anxious attachment style where, and these only flare up when there is a sense of like lack, or you feel unsafe in the dynamic of the relationship. And it's typically the loudest in the person you're closest to, because remember, they mimic like your earliest childhood, your earliest relationship with your primary caregiver from childhood. So the anxious attachment style is someone who really wants a lot of closeness in relationships, who really like has a higher drive in a sense for closeness and intimacy. A lot of times someone with an anxious attachment style is looking outward to the other person to come and like save them in some way. If there's been a rupture, there's like, we do this protest behavior. I used to default to an anxious attachment style, and I have done so much healing and so much work on myself to move towards more of a secure attachment style, particularly in my romantic relationship now, but also really for myself. Yeah, interesting. This is so interesting. I feel like being the fourth child. Yeah, even with loving parents, yes, that I would definitely lean more towards insecure. Yes, and the need for attention, loud, busy energy of the house, and lots more. Absolutely. And your needs being overlooked. Not by their, it wasn't like their fault. They weren't doing it in an abusive, neglectful way, but like they had their own shit too. They were busy, right? Like, and that's where forgiveness comes in, and even more of this element of grieving, because it's like, well, shit. They couldn't be what I needed them to be. And then reparenting comes in, and inner child work comes in, and it's just like it all ties together. I love you guys because you'll nerd out with me over this stuff. So the anxious attachment style, increased need for, increased desire for like attention and closeness, to be seen. And, yeah, you're super intrigued by attachment styles. You're going to look into them more. Yes. Being the oldest child. Yeah. You feel you took on a lot of stuff. Okay. Right. And so you may have an element of like ultra independence to you. And I would maybe even say a little bit of, avoidant in relationships, because you're like, fuck, I gotta care for myself. I gotta I've cared for everyone else. I gotta pay attention to me. So the anxious, and I get into this in my book too. Like I totally get into all of this, because this was, this was like really pivotal for me to understand, because I was in a relationship. Are you guys okay if we go a couple minutes over 7? Just cause I am still talking. I won't go too far. I'll respect your time. And like, I got shit to do too, but like, I want to like close the loop on attachment styles quick. Like, are you guys okay if I just go over like 5 or 10 minutes? So someone with an anxious attachment style, and I'm referring to my book because there's only so much room in my mind to retain all this. I think about everything that I had to learn, like going through nursing school, and it's like, okay, oh yeah, give me a book. But it's like, it was like I had to compartmentalize to take the test. Like nursing school was really freaking hard. So it was like I had to study. And then as soon as the test was over, it would be like gone. Okay. Yes, please do. Okay. Yeah, my mom, lost me while she was breastfeeding me. Okay. Like screamed for my other children. Oh my God. Really? She didn't know where I was. And they went and looked, came back and saw me at her breast. Wow. So was she like checked out? That's like when we're holding our phone and we're like, where is my phone? Oh my God. It's so awful. Okay, so I have this invisible issue my whole life. Yes. And Megan, have you investigated the sacred energies and the wounded feminine? Because I get into the wounded feminine in my book too, and the unworthiness and the invisible and not feeling seen and like really being able to step into your feminine more. I have a really, really awesome program called Sensuality and Magnetism that's starting next week, but like getting into all of that feminine energy. I'm definitely going to look into these. Okay, I was raised to be seen but not heard, right? And just never really taken care of, right? Like you had a roof over your head and you had food, meals on the table, like you're fine, right? Like a little dismissive. And so then we grow into these adults and we're like, yeah, maybe you weren't beat every day, but it's like, and not that, you know, we're not comparing traumas, but like there is still every single adult, there is healing to be had. Okay. So anxious attachment style. Gets caught up in the relationship, worries about rejection, has a very sensitive nervous system, seeks high levels of intimacy, approval, and responsiveness from the partner, acts out in protest behavior if there's been like distance or a disconnect. So protest behavior. And now again, this is evolutionary. So all of this makes perfect sense. So evolutionarily speaking, when let's just say a baby chimp, like we've evolved, we evolved. But like, let's just say a baby chimp. So a baby chimp gets separated from its parent from, oh gosh, Tracy. Okay. I'm just like wrapping up. Yeah, totally. There's like, I've covered so much in the hour. But so baby chimp gets separated from its mom and it's like, it can't be alone. If it's alone, it's more of a danger to be like, whatever, killed. It's, you know, its survival is threatened. So it's like, whatever it's going to say to get the mom's attention to get back with her. Humans, we lose the mom or like the mom, you know, but, oh yeah. Okay, Megan, you're telling her. So we lose the mom or like the mom figure, whatever, whoever we're attached in this way to, our significant other. There's a rupture, there's a disconnect, and then you start the texting or you start the calling, just incessant protest behavior. Come back, bids for connection, bids to reestablish connection for your survival, because there's something about the disconnect that feels very threatening to you. So your nervous system is firing off. You're in that sympathetic activation and you're doing the protest behavior. I sometimes say like graspy or needy. I hate that, like needy, but like that's what someone with an attachment style, that they default to anxious. They'll be called that. They're very unhappy when they're not in relationships. They're like serial monogamous. Like I'm in my third long-term adult relationship. I'm not a short-term dater. I like monogamy and I like depth, and I will for sure be with the same person for a while. But this is part of like my write-up. That's what feels, my makeup, that's what feels safe to me. I was single for like 3 years after my divorce. I did have that period of time where I did a lot of deeply healing inner work. But so fears that the little bumps in the relationship will lead to a breakup, very black and white, and overly dependent on their partner. Okay, so that's anxious attachment. Now, that's an insecure attachment style. There's another insecure attachment style that is called avoidant. And someone who has an avoidant attachment style really likes to keep people at arm's length. Like it's not safe to let people in. I'm just going to do it all. I'm good. I got this. You know, the level of handle it, to move like the window of tolerance in the nervous system, the level of handle it, the ability to hold a lot of really hard things all at once is very high. They often will send mixed signals to their partner because deep down they want closeness, but when they get closeness, it feels suffocating and threatening and not safe. So their nervous system fires off, but in a different way. They will sometimes devalue their significant other or use distancing strategies, either emotionally or physically, like sabotage, like start a fight about nothing before you're supposed to go somewhere, because then they don't have to go somewhere. Like it's a distancing strategy. They don't make their intentions clear. Sometimes they're very emotionally flat. or emotionally unavailable. Distrustful, they have difficulty communicating or even articulating, expressing how they're feeling. They're isolated, unpredictable. They don't want to get close to others. They keep others at a distance, and they're ambivalent about relationships. Yeah, that would be me. Okay, I got this energy. It can feel very strong, very hard and determined. Okay, very hard and detrimental. Definitely avoid true closeness. Okay, for your own safety. Somewhere along the way, you were shown that it wasn't safe to let your guard down completely. When you let your guard down completely, you're way more exposed. It's like belly up. Like you're way more exposed to others coming in and really, really hurting you. So someone with an anxious attachment style will typically go in their nervous system to the sympathetic activation. And someone in their with their avoidant attachment style will typically go to the dorsal, the shutdown, the immobilized. Yeah, you fully understanding that. Yeah, totally. And then here's the other kicker. Okay, well, there's a couple more things. One, the avoidant is also subdivided into fearful avoidant and dismissive avoidant. But just for the sake of simplicity, it really is like, we're going to go avoidant and anxious. And here's what happens in relationship dynamics when there is this sense of like unsafe, it's not safe. An avoidant will end up with an anxious. And then they play. And it gets all dysfunctional. And then nervous systems are firing off. And nobody's got it together. Nobody's regulated. Nobody's co-regulated. It's toxic. It's codependent. It ends up being codependent. It's the perfect dyad to come together. One with an avoidant attachment style and one with an anxious attachment style. You hit the nail on me for the head. You hit the nail right on the head for me beginning my journey. It felt so hard. You've been really working on these issues with my partner. We've gotten close. Amazing. I've been able to be more open about how I'm feeling instead of acting out on the distance. Okay. So yeah. Gives a name to what I've been looking for. Good. My pleasure. My honor. This is stuff that I really wish that like we knew more about, because it's like, yeah, my Jesus, it sounds like every relationship I've ever had. I know. And like, so I came to this realization where I was defaulting to my anxious attachment style and with my twin flame, and he was avoidant. And I was like, oh my God, if I don't heal this in myself, I think I have a sneeze coming. If I don't heal this in myself, I'm going to continue to play out. Excuse me. Excuse me. Okay, usually it's 2. Okay, excuse me. I'm going to continue to play out the same dynamic because it's energy. It's all energy. So if I don't heal this in myself and learn to not be anxiously attached in a relationship, I'm energetically going to attract the same type of avoidant bullshit. Thank you. And I did not want to be in that relationship again. So I did so much work. I did so much work on my inner child. Thank you, ladies. I did so much work to reparent myself, to be the authority in my life, to show up and be the parent that I didn't, I don't feel that I had. My parents are good people. My dad passed now, but like, they're good people. They were just so caught up in their own stuff and in their own trauma. And then of course, ancestral general bullshit gets passed down. And so I'm the cycle breaker. I'll break some cycles and not pass it on to my boys and, everything, like keep the conversation going around this. So, okay, so now secure. Let me just touch on secure and then we'll close the loop. So secure, being with, and, okay, if you have an insecure attachment style and you align with someone who has more of a secure attachment style, you will have an earned secure attachment style, it's said, within 3 years. But I will say, I've been with my man now We were together on and off for like 3 years, but consistently now for like 16 months or so. I've known him since 7th grade. I've known him for more than half my life. But like, it was about a year that I really started to feel more secure in it. And now I really, like, I'm not that person anymore. I'm not, like, I've grieved her. I'm sorry for her, but like, I'm not her anymore. She gone. So it may not necessarily be 3 years, like speaking from personal experience, but in the world of psychology, it's like 3 years and you get an earned secure attachment. And it's like, I just want to give out trophies for that. Like, I just want to give out medals, because this is not easy work. Like, healing, this is like, you get this secure attachment, girl, like, you do it. So someone with a secure attachment, they're confident, they're emotionally, thank you for the hearts, they're emotionally available, like appropriately responsive to loved ones' needs. They're not intimidated or turned off by too much closeness, and they don't like overly want too much closeness. It's like a nice, healthy balance. They're non-reactive. They have healthy relationship bonds. They're comfortable with emotional intimacy and proximity, that physical closeness with someone who has an anxious attachment style typically like wants a lot of closeness. Whereas like the avoidant, it's like too much. Reliable and consistent. They're not afraid of commitment or dependency. They communicate issues well, naturally express feelings. Closeness creates more closeness, and they lead with cooperation. So the goal, just like the goal is in the nervous system to get in the ventral vagal state, the goal within attachment styles is to be like in that secure attachment style and have that like, healthy connection with others. And there's so many other like layers to this, as I mentioned, there's like the sacred energies, it's inner child healing, there's reparenting, there's just like, there's grieving and forgiveness. There's like so many other layers to this. But once you start on the path and you start to really like view yourself through the lens of compassion and love the shit out of yourself, even with all the shadows, even with all this darkness, even if you are feeling low vibe one day, like, and remember, we're cyclical beings. And so at different times of the month, we're going to feel different things. And just to be yourself and love yourself and accept yourself through all of that, it's like one of the most powerful things we can do for ourselves. And it's one of the most powerful things we can do to model for others also, and especially if we have children. So, okay. Any questions about like any of that? And let me see. Okay. Yeah. I mean, it's basically like the human experience, like this kind of stuff, while we're continuing to ascend to our highest potential. Yeah, you've been talking to yourself a lot about radical self-love, for sure. And the radical self-love, hand in hand with that, is the self-acceptance, the self-responsibility. Like for me, getting out of that relationship that, like, after my divorce, that was really big. That was like in 10 years ago, 2012. But then the relationship that took me years to break free from, that I really was like trauma bonded and addicted, I had to take responsibility for my own shit, for my own toxic stuff. Like, when I have PMS and someone's really pissing me off, I will leave. And like, that's not very healthy. I don't do it anymore. But like I used to, I was like gone. I was like, I'm out. I'm not doing this anymore. This whole fight or flight thing, the whole like black or white, like the relationship is over. It was like, that was normal for me. And I didn't know anything different until I did. Until I was like, actually, what I really desire is a healthy relationship. And like, that is not cohesive. Like, that is not congruent with like a healthy relationship. So that, to me, that was like really important, was like to own my shit, and not like shit acronym, but like to own my shit. Oh, good. Okay. This is so helpful. Great awarenesses. Yeah. I'm excited to dive into workbook. Yes. Yeah. So my workbook, I will, I got to remember to post the link for the regulation cheat sheet. And then, also in my group, Fully Expressed with Kara Carouse, I'm having a 7-day experiential journey right now. It's free. My group is free. and it's today was day 3, so it's called Playing in the Quantum Field, and each day is a deep dive. It's a meditation, but each day it's a different theme into like different areas of our life. So feel free, like I know some of you have joined over there, so feel free to join us in there, and I know Megan, you joined me over in there. And then I have Sensuality and Magnetism, which is it's a group program. It's a 3-week intensive that's coming up. It's starting on Monday the 18th. But the Playing in the Quantum Field, that is so much fun for me because, especially you, Megan, you understand this is the energetics of everything. This is how we co-create our lives. This is how we work with manifestation. So this has been so fun to share with you, ladies. I nerd out over this. It's been an honor to come in and be here with you. And yes, okay, good. You will? Okay. Tomorrow, it's going to be an audio. And it's an audio on the sacred energies. So Megan, are you familiar with like the sacred masculine and feminine energies? So it's an audio that I've already pre-recorded. I have a busy day tomorrow, so it's an audio, but I will post it at 11 in the group. And then also days 1 through 3 are still in the group. They're just in the guides section. And after I'm done with the 7 days together, I'm going to be taking it down and putting it up for sale. But right now it's free. So you might as well tune in for it in there. Okay, my pleasure. Yes, if I didn't have the codes and energetics, I'd be a mess. I know, right? Like we need them, but this is our healing in the human journey. They really help, and I need to know more regulation too. Yeah. So you'll get the regulation cheat sheet. You'll have you're going to remember this is like your bag of tricks. Like you're coming up with your own bag of tricks, your own self-regulation, list that you're going to be able to pull from, and then also co-regulation, who you really feel safe and like you can trust them to be able to co-regulate with them. Okay. Yes. Okay. Even better. Yes. And then I'll be back live in the group Friday for sure. And Friday is going to be a really good topic too. And then Saturday and Sunday. I don't usually work on the weekends, but I'll be in there Saturday and Sunday. So thanks also for accepting me in my truck. I've maybe done 2 lives in my life ever from my truck, but I had to still come in and be with you guys. So thank you. And let's definitely stay connected. And I hope you have a really fabulous night, and we will talk soon. Peace. Thank you, Megan. All right. Bye guys.